This all started last year. My son had a stretch of really bad luck over a few months. He broke his foot, fractured his arm, needed 12 stitches in his head, and suffered a grade 2 sprain. All of this happened in just 4 months. We have always been Christian, not overly religious, but we are believers. A few days before Christmas, I went to church and prayed for my son, because the night before, I had dreamed of a man in a black suit who was trying to get close to my son. I wouldn't let him. He seemed like he wanted to take him away. Honestly, I woke up terrified. It was almost the end of January this year, and my son had fully recovered from all his injuries. My family and I went on a trip, and everything was fine until one morning my brother mentioned that he had gone to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and the door opened. He saw a child peer in who looked exactly like my son, but he couldn't make out the face. He said it was blurry. He blinked, and the child was gone, but the door was left open. He got up to check the living room, but no one was there. We figured he must have been half asleep and chose to ignore it. Weeks went by, and my son started complaining of a pain in the back of his neck. We blamed it on the old, worn-out pillows. My birthday was on May 5th. Because of all the stress, I went to the beach by myself. It was a wonderful day. I should mention that my son's father and I have been together for 10 years. We are best friends and actually a very good couple. However, over the last few months, it was just constant arguments over tiny things. The next day, my son complained about his knees. The pain was so intense that when he tried to get out of bed, he collapsed onto the floor because he couldn't support his own weight. Worried, I took him to the emergency room, but after a scan they said nothing was wrong. They gave me the typical line, "He's just having growing pains," and sent him home. I remember that night clearly. My son cried all night. His body hurt so much that I couldn't even rub it because he would scream in pain. The next morning, we went back to the emergency room. After 12 hours, they told me again that he was fine. The only thing they found were elevated white blood cells, which confirmed his pain was real, but they didn't know the cause. It was May 15th, and my son couldn't walk anymore. He couldn't even sit up in bed. His body would fall to the side. He had no strength. He dropped from 77 pounds down to 48 pounds. He has a darker complexion, but his skin was a purple color, no exaggeration. Throughout all this time, my son had been to 7 hospitals. His arms and legs were covered in purple bruises from so many needles, and the result was always the same: nothing. Only the high white blood cells confirmed that my son wasn't lying. I also started having dizzy spells, sudden drops in blood pressure, and hair loss. I told myself it was just stress from the worry. One day, my mom, desperate, called my cousin, who is a pastor, to pray for my son. I still remember her saying, "What man cannot do, God will." With no one else to turn to, I started to pray. I had never done it before. I remember crying all night. I felt like I was saying goodbye to my son. It was horrible. The next morning, my cousin called and told us to come to her, as she had dreamed about me and said he didn't have much time left. We traveled that very night. My son, in great pain, entered the church, and without knowing exactly what was happening, many people came up to him, though no one knew us. They started to pray over him. One woman passed her hands over the parts of his body where he was complaining of pain. Then, another woman delivered a message and asked for prayers for my son. I can't explain what happened, but my son walked out of the church, jumping. The next day, my aunts and cousins who are devoted churchgoers told me that something powerful had been thrown at my son. They clarified that the harm wasn't meant for him, it was meant for my partner, his father, and that, as a consequence, my son and I got sick. 6 months have passed now. My son eats, does things on his own, and he celebrated his 6 years at the end of May. He had been so sick that I was afraid we wouldn't be able to celebrate, but we did, and he is healthier than ever. I'm not writing this to prove the power of God. I'm just sharing what happened to us. I don't know much about these kinds of matters, which is why I'm telling the story. And I asked, was what happened to us witchcraft?